This is for Kerbin. After the Kerbals develop the technologies required to successfully recover their rockets, they decide that it might be time to aim for the stars and go to space. They start on the development of different rocket parts and different aerodynamic parts. They recently discovered new technologies that might allow them to make even bigger technologies. They're currently looking into what all might be possible in the future through different electrical, different nuclear, different ion, and even other crew capsules to potentially go interstellar further than ever thought before. Recently, another planet was discovered in between Duna and Dres, nicknamed Helios. With one moon, it is a gas giant with a beautiful ring, marked by blue colors. Right by it is thought to be Jewel's sister, with a moon that is also blue. It seems to represent the blue color of the rest of the gas giant. As Kerbals begin the development of their first orbital class rocket, they realize that the liquid fuel system was inadequate. Instead, they go for a much more efficient engine with a bit less fuel, but it would still provide the necessary thrust that would have been needed. They attach their standard 4 SRBs and they prepare to launch their rocket. They try to put on extra fuel, but realize that their vehicle assembly building just cannot support it. Unfortunately, the engine had to be mounted directly to the fuel tank, making the craft look a bit less than ideal, but it would still look just fine. With everything attached and the engine ready, everything is ready to be launched. As they get the staging correct, they go for launch. Realizing that their simulations are correct and that they will need some aerodynamic assistance on the second stage, they had 4 aerodynamic fins in hopes of preventing catastrophic. The rocket launches up using four peripherally mounted solid rocket boosters first, before it will eventually burn the middle in a separate stage. Launch the rocket up. They get ready to stage as soon as they shrimp solid rocket boosters complete all of them. Provides tons of thrust and lift, and as the side boosters are detached, there's a small brief period in time in which speed actually decreases due to the atmosphere. But as the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner, the SRB becomes more and more powerful. Then, disaster strikes. The second stage is still aerodynamically unstable despite all of their simulations. And through trial and error, and they were able to get to an apoapsis of 50,000 kilometers. 20,000 kilometers short of the edge of Kerbin's atmosphere. Unfortunately, this would not be a suborbital flight, but the research team behind the rocket were able to gather very valuable data. And luckily, the top most expensive part of the stage was able to be recovered in its entirety. With the spinning out of control, they look at developing brand new measures with a stability assist system, which will hopefully aid with using monopropellant thrusters, should hopefully aid in the stability of the craft so this does not happen again. Aerodynamically, it is stable towards the Staputnik core, and as it tumbles to the atmosphere, its 2 parachutes are deployed, and it is able to make a successful touchdown despite the unsuccessful mission. They've learned a lot, and luckily the capsule even flips when the parachutes fully deploy, landing on the very flat bottom as it was intended to. They wait for the capsule to return to Kerbin, and they watch in anticipation, hoping that everything will go smoothly. But only us know how this will go. As the capsule nears the surface, They're worried that perhaps there will be a bit of damage sustained to the bottom core, which would knock out the communications equipment and electrical equipment, rendering the main core unreusable. Fortunately, this does not come to light. As the capsule is returned, a very brief interruption is made, and they are able to actually gain a bit of science. With the stability node unlocked, they are able to gather monopropellant thrusters, and now are able to successfully control their rocket. But after their failure of reaching for the stars, they upgrade their tracking station and look at what other upgrades can be provided. They also upgrade their astronaut complex to allow for extra vehicular activity in the vacuum of space, which will come in very useful. And a brand new contract is established to test out the TT-86 decoupler. This next mission being flown is part of the other half of the aerospace division, in which they test rocket parts and complete contracts. This mission would be much more successful than the predecessor mission to it. Using a rocket very similar, they use 4 solid rocket boosters mounted with decouplers, as well as 2 decouplers ready to be fired when the conditions are correct. 2 communitrons have been attached, and 2 batteries have also been attached. Parachutes have been fitted to the middle SRB to provide for recovery. The solid fuel in the middle booster is lowered there so that it will speed up just enough when it runs out of fuel. Test conditions are met. The spinning stability fully successful. They're able to launch up the rocket and perform their mission, which they can only hope is a success. As the rocket spins, going through the cloud layer, it reaches 10,000 meters. Test parameters state that they must hit 20,000 meters, which they hope it does. Going at a speed of a minimum of 110 meters per second to test real flight conditions. As they near that altitude, they realize they won't actually need to fire that middle engine a whole lot. The decouplers are decoupled and the contract successfully cleared. The rocket fires its middle SRB to reduce the fuel, even though it didn't need it. The rocket comes down and will land using its parachutes. The entire middle stage of the rocket was able to be recovered successfully, with the only loss being the side SRBs. The cost is minuscule, and we were able to make back the complete cost of the rocket and more in this one simple test. All parachutes deploy, bringing the rocket down safely. So the rocket does its standard flipping right at the end. It will land on the engine bell, in which the SRB will be able to be reused. The parachutes successfully slow it down to under 2 meters per second, so the engine bell was not destroyed. As the rocket nears the landing, they brace and they hold their breath, hoping that nothing gets damaged and that this will be once again a completely successful mission. Fortunately, it touches the ground and it was able to be recovered. Little science data was able to be gathered from this. The main purpose of the mission was to finish a contract. They head to the research and development, and they were able to unlock they were unable to unlock any nodes. They head over to the mission control to check out their other contracts on what they could possibly do. A couple contracts were considered, but never came to light. The space program is a booming success so far, with hundreds of funds. The Kerbal Space Administration is looking to give the actual space program a bit of a budget increase, as public support skyrockets with a brand new up-and-coming space program. Next time, they might have a budget increase and be able to successfully go to space on a very small budget. Completing this would be very successful to the entire space program. I do really hope you enjoyed this update log for Kerbin. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to watch more of it. My name's Sinren, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.